So Vigilantes, in today's video we're going to be going over some quite mysterious and cryptic yet mind-frackingly confusing premiere photos for Starling City, that first episode of Arrow Season 8. You may have seen these already, you may not, they're quite fresh. Maybe by the time I'm uploading this you might have already seen it, but nevertheless, as I said, it's quite mind-fracking, can't speak, and yes I say frack, come on, guess why? It has something to do with a yellow symbol. Because these photos are kind of hard to figure out exactly how it ties in. Now, there's some things in these photos that we knew would be happening. Like Stephen Amell said he would be using his Arrow Season 1 bow. We get an awesome shot of him in his new suit with the bow, and that's just something within these photos themselves. We get to see Katie Cassidy, Earth 2 Laurel Black Siren, turned now new Black Canary, in that awesome new suit. I know not everyone is kind of unanimous on thinking that, but I just kind of like how it feels a lot more Black Canary, if you will, than the previous iterations of the costume we have. But at the same time, you know, you're entitled to your opinion if you don't like it. But ladies and gentlemen, before we get into all of these promo photos, which as I said, there's a lot of theory crafting that can go into this, be sure to go ahead and like this video if you do go on to enjoy it, just to show your support for the Arrow content as we're getting a lot closer into this season now. And of course, subscribe for more Arrow videos, just... you know what I was gonna say. Oh yeah, and if any of you are massive Arrowheads, I'll leave a little Discord link in the top pinned comment down below if you want to talk about Arrow with me after this video or any time, because I'm quite active in my Discord server. So let's get into number one, where we see Dinah here. Now, like, to be honest, we can combine this with quite a few photos. Now, the first question on my mind with all of these photos is, what freaking Earth is this? I don't think it is our Earth, just because, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, feel completely free to be like, Boba, hey, you didn't factor this in, but like, I don't see Tommy Merlyn in Arrow Season 1, or before Arrow Season 1, or during Oliver's time away on Lian or anything like that, where he kind of looked this badass, this stern, and kind of with a beard. Also, just going by with what other stars have teased for Colin Donnell's character, you know, with Tommy Merlyn, how fans will get to see him in a way they've kind of always wanted to see him. Now we have, I guess you could say, was it on Crisis on Earth X? We saw him like as another Earth's Prometheus, but I think this time they're doing it right. Now, I still think Adrian Chase is going to be a Green Arrow of sorts, but we did see in the Arrow Season 8 San Diego Comic-Con trailer, whoever was in that identical costume to Oliver Queen, like they were both wearing that new Arrow suit. I'm 99.98% sure about that. They had a beard, but lo and behold, Adrian Chase and Tommy Merlyn here both are sporting beards, so I guess you could argue it's kind of hard to pinpoint down who that other Green Arrow was. So it honestly could be either Adrian Chase or Tommy Merlyn, or both. But regardless, guys, I think that this could be Earth 2. I could be wrong about that. It could be an entirely different Earth. But regardless, we know that this isn't our Earth. At first glance, when I literally first saw these photos, I thought, okay, has Oliver gone back in time, or has he gone to another Earth but brought Renee and Dinah with him? Which would have completely surprised me, because I really didn't think any of the Team Arrow would be going along with Oliver's kind of mission throughout the multiverse, which he's evidently doing, which is why we know in the first place that this probably isn't Earth 1. But then again, guys, instantly debunked, just in the sense of how shady not only does Dinah and Renee look, but Dinah doesn't have the scar on her neck. So, you know, Dinah and Renee are kind of reminiscent here of kind of maybe some cops looking out for the hood, or going after the hood, in a very kind of Arrow Season 1 kind of style, if you know what I mean. And I haven't done it yet, maybe I'm doing it in the post-production editing right now, but we see how Dinah and Renee are probably playing kind of good cop or bad cop, or maybe bad cop, whilst interviewing Oliver Queen and Tommy Merlyn here. And it's just interesting to see what she's holding there. It's slightly transparent, you can kind of slightly see it there. My odds are is that if you reverse that image, potentially it could resemble that classical Green Arrow Archer kind of hood sketch that the police usually went with, but then again it might not. But I think it might be, but you know, maybe you're seeing on screen, but it's kind of hard to exactly tell. But here's another thing to throw in the equation. If this was Earth 2, I just don't know if the Oliver we see here sitting down, I mean, I think it is our, you know, Season 8 Oliver blending in, and this is what makes it such an emotional thing, because we see him in an amazing picture here. Bottom line there, this is just amazing for both stars and in the actual world if this is our Oliver Queen seeing his mum again. On Earth 2, Oliver Queen died, so if this is our Oliver, he would have had to have gone to a time before that, I guess, and, you know, blended in, and maybe knocked out the Oliver then. I don't know, this is why I don't think maybe it's even Earth 2. So unless I'm missing something completely obvious here, it could be a whole different Earth than obviously Earth 1 and Earth 2, because what we know is that Dinah doesn't have a scar, Oliver Queen is dead, but you could argue they could have gone back to a previous time than that, but I don't think that's going to be the case. If they went back to a time after that, that is just crazy to adjust the story that way. Like, how are they going to, I mean, is Oliver really going to walk in being like, oh, I didn't die? You know, the Queen's Gambit went down, but I mean, they could, but then he would only kind of disappear again because of going back to Arrow Season 8 stuff. But I'm going to stop right there because I'm starting to enter major speculation territory. But regardless, I think Tommy Merlyn here is a vigilante. It'd be super interesting if this is our Oliver and he kind of wants to recruit this Tommy Merlyn. Just adding more stuff in from the trailer. We saw Renee approaching Tommy Merlyn, didn't we? You know, Tommy Merlyn here just really does seem like the billionaire playboy kind of vigilante approach that Oliver Queen had in very early seasons, and it just seems that it's another Earth's version of the Hood or the Green Arrow, and they're just playing that very classical billionaire playboy kind of businessman Tommy Merlyn vibe. It should go without saying really that I'm very excited to see whoever or whichever Oliver this is interact with Moira Queen again. I keep getting a hunch that this is our Oliver. It just makes it more meaningful for the character anyway, that it would be the present day, and also from what we know from Stephen Amell as well, is that he said he's going to get some kind of closure. Not that necessarily the other characters will realize that, but at least for Oliver, he'll feel that, you know, some loose ends have been addressed before he kind of inevitably dies. So yet again, there's another factor into thinking that this is our Oliver. These photos of Team Arrow suiting up are super interesting because everyone is in their new costumes. Diggles is slightly adjusted. We've got the Black Canary there. I've already talked about that briefly, but I think she looks kick-ass. I think she would have looked cool with longer hair as well, just like it showed in the concept art for this new suit, but I don't mind the short hair either at all. Yeah, man, in this photo in particular, it just really looks pretty damn awesome. And here we see Oliver with his new bow. And this is another thing, guys. If it wasn't our Oliver, or as I said, wherever Oliver is, or if he does come in post Oliver dying in the Queen's Gambit, which he did actually die, but he's coming in and posing saying, oh, hey, I'm still here, or something like that. That's how he gets his bow. Inevitably, Oliver is getting his Season 1 bow back, and, you know, I think that tells us that in one way or another, he's going back in time, or going to another Earth, and also going back in time, or just going to another Earth where his bow was never destroyed. This is all kind of getting confusing now, and this is what I meant by this video, because just through the sheer premise of Arrow Season 8, it kind of is a very hard thing, I guess, unless you know a lot of inside stuff, to break down, just because of what Oliver is doing, what his mission involves going throughout the multiverse. However, I am really looking forward to these scenes where we see whatever Earths Dinah and Renee are questioning Tommy Merlyn and Oliver Queen. It is really interesting as well to think that if in these suit-up pictures it is on the same Earth and it's not a whole separate part to the episode where they've come back, just because Laurel could play an interesting part as well there. Just going by the fact that she could fake being the Laurel Lance as well and help our Oliver blend in. In fact, the bottom line at the end of this episode, Oliver does manage to get this Tommy Merlyn vigilante, whether he's the Green Arrow or something else, into his fight against the Anti-Monitor, and we see him pop up again in Crisis on Infinite Earths. That would just be sweet. I honestly don't know what other purpose it would serve Oliver going to this other place just to get his bow and maybe speak to a few people who aren't really even his own versions, maybe, you know, because Oliver does have a very specific mission, and I'm sure the Monitor won't exactly be kind of happy if he's just doing all of this for leisurely kind of closure stuff. Maybe, of course, if he's got a main goal that does help out Crisis and he goes to a place, he does get that done at the end of the day, but at the same time, whilst he's there, he's exploring these other parts with other people. But I think, you know, you would have to think that Tommy Merlyn will play a factor into Crisis maybe, since I think it's fairly obvious that he is whoever, you know, on the sketch that Dinah is holding in this photo. But that is absolutely everything I have to say about this breakdown on these photos, guys. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, let me know all of your thoughts in regards to this. It's kind of trippy in a sense, just because there are quite a few variables in what they could do or where they could go, and which version of which character this is. Is this Oliver or is this Tommy Merlyn from this Earth? Either way, I would love to hear your thoughts, and if you do want to talk about it in a bit more depth with me, join my Discord server in the description or in a top pinned comment. But other than that, guys, like this video if you did enjoy it, subscribe if you are brand new, social media links and Patreon is just below me if you want to support the channel a bit further. It really does help fuel the content that I just create. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have a lovely rest of your day. I'll see you vigilantes in the next video. Goodbye.